Let's go to Beijing because the China analyst Einar Tangen joins us from there. Einar, always good to see you. You know, we wanted to get the Chinese kind of perspective. I mean, we'll broaden it out to get your independent international analysis, but the Chinese perspective could be interesting because obviously it's a country that has an opposite political and social philosophy to the one that the United States has. In private, what do you think the upper echelons of the Politburo in Beijing will be thinking?
Well, they're struck by the hypocrisy of it. You know, there's been all of these sanctions against Hong Kong, citing liberty and all of these things. And they look at these pictures on TV and they say, well, you deserve it. Now, I mean, there's a very stark contrast going on. While there's civil unrest going on in the United States, China has just passed their own civil code. This has been since 2016 in the making. It's the fourth time they did it. It outlines all the individual rights that people have, not only in the past, but they're also talking about the digital economy. So, in Beijing, the Politburo, they're looking at this and saying, look, we're leaping ahead of the United States. They seem to be falling behind. All their efforts to contain China have not worked. China is stronger than it ever was before. In fact, it's moved up the period of time when it's going to overcome the U.S. in nominal terms. It's already ahead in PPP, purchasing power parity, by 4 years, by 2028. So if this continues, you can talk about all the rhetoric, but the reality for the Chinese is that they think they're doing very well and they have the right system.
Yeah, sure. I've seen that economic forecast as well. But you mentioned about the potential hypocrisy here in this situation. But if you look at what's been exercised in the United States, however badly these people have been expressing their displeasure, they're exercising some form of interaction with the democratic process. I mean, whether you agree with it or not, and most people obviously don't. Could it be that China is looking at Hong Kong and saying, actually, if we allow too much of this democratic process and these anti-Beijing activists to try to take over the Legislative Council, and that increases the prospects of democracy in the territory, that's obviously what we want to avoid, exactly what's happened in D.C.
Well, I don't think it's only China that's looking at this. I think people are a bit dismayed. I mean, many of the people that you talk to, got their opinion about. They're just, they said, the U.S. is supposed to be the city on the hill. It's supposed to be something that people desire. That this is the future. But right now, it looks horrible. And quite frankly, I mean, for the Chinese side, they look at the reaction, what happened last time when in Hong Kong, when they stormed the Legislative Council, they were throwing Molotov cocktails and bashing everything about. That was seen as a cry for freedom. But when it happens in the U.S. at the Capitol building, then all the people inside said, this is an insurrection. This is unconscionable. This is somebody trying to subvert the process. So it's either one or the other. Mobs, in my opinion, are just mobs. They're not intelligent. They're not, they're not going to accomplish anything. They don't know how to rule. All they do is know how to destroy. And unfortunately, like any chain, they're only as strong as the weakest link. And unfortunately, a lot of those in that crowd.
There has never been a Chinese official expressing any official position in terms of who Beijing might have wanted to win the election that is now Joe Biden's. But could there be any truth in the analysis that possibly Donald Trump is an easier person to deal with because he only really seems to care about money and the economy, and that's his driving kind of force, whereas Joe Biden might revert to more traditional parameters of conducting foreign policy?
Well, actually, that was the analysis 4 years ago when it was, Hillary versus Donald Trump. They thought that they understood Donald, that he was purely transactional and mostly out for himself. But he proved to be very, very unpredictable. So at this juncture, although they don't have a preference, they are a little bit concerned by how erratic the president is, as he's proven by his reaction to this latest development. So at this point, it's not that they prefer Biden. They know, quite frankly, that he will be pushing on human rights. He's already promised to try to cajole a network of countries who are democratic and capitalist to kind of create a united front against China. That's not exactly friendly words. But, China is proceeding on its own. It's signed two major trade deals without the United States being involved, RCEP, and then also this new EU deal. So China is working more with actions, a lot less on the rhetoric and ideology, very pragmatic. And I think that will be continue to be their course, regardless of who it is. In terms of Donald Trump, the thinking this time around among some of the hardline people in China was that it was better to have Donald Trump because he was destroying America from the inside. Not that they thought they could have an easier deal with him, simply because he would just simply accelerate the decline of the U.S.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really interesting point, and it leads on to sort of a more international appreciation of what's happened inside Washington and the storming of the Capitol building. I mean, give us a feeling about how soft power is affected by events like that, how reputation makes a difference, because as you've said, over the past 4 years, a lot of former American allies, not just normal citizens just thinking about the world and talking about Donald Trump, allies have been saying, we need to be on our own now until Donald Trump leaves the White House.
Well, it's not only leaving the White House. Remember, 73 million people voted for Donald Trump and his agenda. Obama got 69 million when he had a landslide. That tells you that America is deeply divided. And the concern is that, in 4 years, it does this another seesaw. It goes back to somebody who's either Trump or Trumpian-like, and they push this kind of agenda that is, America first. You already have seen that very deliberately. I mean, despite all the begging by the Biden administration, the EU went ahead with its trade deal with China. I mean, what would it have mattered a couple of weeks? But a very, very strong signal that while they're willing to work with the U.S. on issues, soft power issues to a certain degree, they are not willing to put their hands and trust the U.S. is going to look out for their interests long term.
Einar, really appreciate it. Thank you so much indeed. Einar Tangen speaking to us there from Beijing.